This is a poem sung by the priestly choirs, the sons of Korah, set to Alamot. Nobody really knows what that means. A song. God is our refuge and our strength, a very present help in distress or trouble. So then, we will not be afraid, even though the land should shift, and though the mountains slip into the heart of the sea. That's the reversal of day 3, right there. Even if the dry land goes back to the state of chaos, even then, that doesn't mean that God has fallen asleep at the wheel or has lost control. It might destroy our lives, but that doesn't. There's some grander. We're in the realm of the book of Job here, aren't we? Just because something destroyed my life, does that mean that God is irresponsible? That's what the whole book of Job is about. Even though those waters are constantly roaring and foaming, and the mountains quake at the swelling pride of the chaos waters that are constantly, go to the beach, they're constantly beating away at the dry land. Selah. Whatever it means, it seems to function as stop and think about it. You know, there's a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy dwelling places of the Most High. You know, God is in the midst of that city. That city, she, will never be moved. God will help that city at the sunrise, at the dawn of the morning. See, the nations are making an uproar, the kingdoms tottering. God raises his voice, the earth melts. Yahweh of hosts is with us, the God of Jacob is our stronghold. Selah. Come, behold the works of Yahweh, who has wrought desolations in the earth. He makes wars to cease to the end of the earth, breaking the bow, cutting the spear. He burns chariots with fire. Be still and know, I am Elohim. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the land. Yahweh of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our stronghold. Selah. Did. Psalm 46. So just 3 movements. Who or what is the threat in each of the 3 movements? Did you follow the Selah? Kind of marks those 3 movements of the poem.
So it seems like the first threat is the chaos waters that will bring the chaos. And the next movement, it is the nations that are raging. And then in the third movement, it seems to be specifically wars.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just pause, think back. Israel, you made this early observation of humans can become the agents of chaos. The poem is making that connection for us. So the chaos waters, the rebellious nations at war with one another threaten the stability of the dry land. So it's as if the cosmological image of Genesis 1 of the dry land constantly being under threat of the waters, and then swap the image, Jerusalem on a hill with the Assyrian or Babylonian armies surrounding it. Poem 3, any nation where there's war creating instability, war of the nations and so on. Okay, so that's the problem in each of the 3 movements. Who or what is the unchangeable salvation in each of the 3 movements? So God himself. Okay, so this is really significant. So God himself is the unchangeable reality in the first stanza, yeah, Elohim. Who or what is that thing in the second stanza?
The city.
The city. Can we unpack the identity of the city?
The holy place, yeah.
It's holy. So we're picking.
House of God.
What's that?
Kind of like the house of God.
That's right. Temple. Yeah. It doesn't quite use the word temple, but a holy dwelling place. So we're in the. So so it doesn't use the word Jerusalem or temple. It uses all the imagery associated with it, and then God is in the middle of the temple image. So God himself, when the dry land is threatened by the chaos waters in the first stanza, God himself is what guarantees the stability. And then even if the dry land submerges back into the waters, God himself is still there as a refuge. Second stanza, the place where God dwells is an eternal place of stability, even when the nations are making their uproar. Notice this mention of the river.
Yeah.
The river.
Yeah, it brings joy.
So fascinating. So there's this eternal river of joy coming out of a city where God is.
Ezekiel.
Yes, the prophets get glimpses of the city. Ezekiel had a dream about the city. Do you remember where he was standing? When
Sat by the river. Yeah.
In Ezekiel 1, but near the end of his visions, in Ezekiel, where you're talking about when he sees the city and the river coming out of the city. Yes, that's right. Yeah. When he's brought into all of those dreams and visions, he has a vision and he's brought to a high mountain, where he sees the New Jerusalem with a river flowing out of it. Is there a river flowing out of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, current day, or no? There's a stream called the Pool of Siloam. This little stream where they could get water and then hike it up the hill. But at no time did Jerusalem ever have a river flowing out of the top. So we've got the city where God is in the second stanza. And then in the third stanza, it's just we're back to God himself is the stronghold in the nations that are at war. So notice this image here of the dry land can be identified or swapped in the place of God himself. God himself is like the guarantor of the dry land from sinking back into the waters. God's own heaven and earth in one dwelling place is the ultimate guarantor of true safety and stability when the nations are raging against one another. And this whole place could destroy itself and sink back into chaos. And that would not affect the one who is behind all of this. Yeah, Psalm 46. So it's using the cosmology language to do some really heavy-duty philosophy about the nature of the human condition and the inherent instability of life on the dry land. But yet, the dry land can and ultimately is called to become the place of eternal security, but only. Now, Psalm 46. Let's talk about this river. Ezekiel sees on a high mountain a place where heaven and earth are one, and there's a river flowing out of it. That same image is reflected right here, Psalm 46. And are these the only two places where you've got high places with rivers coming out of them?
Revelation 22.
That's exactly, yeah, the last page of the Bible. Yeah, totally. Yes, yeah. So I'll just scan there real quick. This is in what in chapter 21 is called the Holy City, the New Jerusalem, that is descending from heaven to join the land. And he sees coming out of it the river of the water of life, clear as crystal. And all of a sudden, that whole city can just be called the throne of God and of the Lamb. Because now that the Lamb has come and done his thing, the meaning of the word God is the Father and the Son, or God and the Lamb. Mm-hmm. Where does all this come from?
Genesis 2.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so catch this. You might be tired of my really bad drawing of the biblical cosmos here. We're back here again. Notice how in Genesis 1, the waters recede, the dry land appears. When we turn the page to Genesis 2, starting in verse 4, it's as if we step back the story, we rewind, and we're going to consider this whole concept again with a different timeline and with a different set of images. Because Genesis 2, verse 4 says, here's the account of the skies and the land when they were created, in the day that Yahweh God made the sky, the land and the skies. Now, at this point in the story, no shrub of the field was present in the land. No plants have sprouted. Yahweh hasn't sent any rain on the land, and there's no humans there to work the ground. So you see we've double backed now. So as if Genesis 1 brought us forward, and now we're backing up again, and we're going to consider the same set of ideas now from a new narrative angle. So this is our version of Tohu Vavohu in Genesis 1, verse 2, now defined as no plants and no humans to farm the ground. But so we're kind of like, oh, sad face. This is like the first part of Genesis 1, verse 2, Tohu Vavohu, darkness over the deep. And you're like, oh, no. In Genesis 1, verse 2, but the Spirit of God was suffering. Here, but there was this water that would rise up out of the ground. Now I'm looking at the New American Standard. It has the word mist. Any other translations there? It's in verse 6.
Springs.
Oh, spring?
Streams.
Stream? Great. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, that's right. Yeah, New American Standard versus English Standard Version still has mist. NIV has streams. Yeah. This is an obscure Hebrew word. It only appears here in the entire Hebrew Bible.
Wow.
And it almost certainly means a flow or stream as opposed to like, when I think mist, I think of hovering mist on the ground. And the whole point is that it's coming up out of the land. So just catch the image here. If the dry land is floating on the waters and sustained by the pillars, those chaos waters below that could threaten the dry land, but the pillars guarantee its stability. But there's water coming up out. Where is that sourced in? Where does it come from? And in this cosmological picture, you can get the idea here. It's as if Yahweh has put a cap on this section of the abyss, and then he provides little channels of it to spring up out of the land. And so you get these springs that come up and would water the ground. Now, if you have lots of dirt and you get water, what does that make? Mud. Then Yahweh, God, formed. Formed, yes? And it's the standard Hebrew word for pottery, to shape clay, make a pot. Yahweh formed a human from the dust of the ground, breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the human became a living creature. Yahweh planted a garden in the east in delight. Remember, Hebrew word for Eden means delight. And there he put that human that he formed. And he made all these trees grow out of the ground. Let me tell you about these trees. They're so beautiful to the eyes. They're so good for eating. That's going to come back to bite humans. Whoa, pun not intended, but then intended, yes. And yet right in the middle of that garden, in the middle of the garden, was the tree of life and the tree of knowing good and evil. So our drawing's about to get ridiculous here, but it's okay. In the middle of the garden is this tree. And what in Psalm 46, what's in the middle of the city? God himself is in the middle of the city. A tree from which I eat and receive the gift of divine eternal life. So regardless of how you make sense of that, the tree isn't giving you eternal life. It's God giving you eternal life through the means of ingesting, right, this food. So it's as if this provision of divine life is right here in the center. Now, look at what the story does right here. What happens in verse 10 is this long, what feels to us like a digression. And we're just going to wax eloquent on this river. You know, there's this river that waters the garden. It flowed out of Eden. And then here's the thing. Once that river left the garden, so think of it. So do you see we've got this concept that we have the land, then Eden is an area within the land, and then we've just marked the space called the middle of the garden. Do you see that? In the middle. So you have the land, the dry land, Eden, the middle. And the tree of divine life is right there in the middle here. Can I think of any other important spaces in the Hebrew Bible that have this three-tiered gradation of access and holiness? This is the temple. It's not the temple. It's the prototype of which the temple and tabernacle are symbolic recreations. So this is the middle of the garden is the Holy of Holies. corresponds to Holy of Holies. And when the priests go into the holy place to light the menorah and replace the bread, what is the imagery in all of the walls and curtains around them? Pomegranates and palm trees, and as if they're walking into the garden. So this is it's as if it's the reality to which the later temple spaces are symbols. And then flowing right out of that garden is a river. How many rivers are flowing out of Eden? Significant. Look again.
One flows, but 4 come out of that one.
Exactly. Yeah. Good. Yeah. So this is our little digression. A river watering the garden flowed from Eden. You've got one river in the garden. From there, that is from Eden. Once it leaves Eden, it separates out into 4 heads, and then we get this. Anytime you're reading in the Bible and you're like, why am I being told this right now? This is one of the most gigantic Easter eggs sitting in the story here. And I'll provide the text here just because there's some cool things happening. So the name of the first river was Leaper, or Springer, Pishon. It went around all the land of Havilah, that's on the way to Egypt. There's lots of gold there. The gold of that land, it's so good. It's great gold. There also is the bdellium and the onyx stone. The name of the second river is Gusher, Gihon. It goes all around the land of Cush. The name of the third river is Hiddekel. It goes east of Assyria, Mesopotamia. And the name of the fourth river is Euphrates. You don't know this yet, but well, Genesis 11, it flows right by the city of Babylon. The land of Cush is the land upriver. We call it Ethiopia, but it's the source of the Nile that goes downriver. And so this river becomes associated with Havilah on the way to Egypt, the Sinai Peninsula, with Upper Egypt, the source of the Nile, with Hiddekel, the Tigris, which goes by Assyria, and Euphrates, which supplies the waters of Babylon. I wonder if Sinai and Egypt and Assyria and Babylon will have any important roles to play in the story of Babylon. Oh, yes. These are all places where there are going to be epic showdowns of people creating their own version of heaven on earth and claiming to be Elohim. And almost all the stories are going to end in violent oppression. Yeah? Like Psalm 46 kind of war and battle that will end up threatening the stability of creation. But here's the thing, is that all of these kingdoms you're going to meet later on in the biblical story, who makes their kingdoms even possible in the first place? This river of life flowing out from the place where heaven and earth are one. Yeah, it's so epic. And from where does God supply these waters? The quote here from Hebrew Bible scholar Michael Morales in a book called Tabernacle Prefigured. And it's all about how the Eden story and the flood story are giving you categories that you're going to need to understand the temple and the tabernacle later on in the Hebrew Bible. He puts it this way. He says, water is commonly conceived in the Bible and ancient Near Eastern literature as a symbol of the oppositional forces of life, an ambiguous symbol of life and death. Water is symbolic of death when it's uncontrolled, too much or too little. Yeah? But it's also a symbol of life, because when it's controlled, it provides growth and fertility. This summarizes the movement from the dark abyss of Genesis 1, verse 2, to this river of life in Genesis chapter 2. From the chaos waters of the dark abyss to the fructifying rivers of Eden. What a wonderful word choice, fructifying. In the Hebrew Bible, this decisive control of the waters is the prerogative of God, who's sovereign over death and life. In this sense, the deep abyss signifies the negative or threatening aspect of the waters, but the neutral term, the waters, can represent the positive aspect of water under control. So the role of the waters in Genesis 1 and 2 has this interesting interplay, where God is master and tamer of the waters, and then he can make the waters serve his purposes by watering all the kingdoms of the world when you get to Genesis chapter 2. So what you'll find, this is giving you fundamental categories of the meaning of rivers and springs then. So can you think of any stories in the Bible where somebody is thirsty and God provides a spring for them in the middle of somewhere where they don't? I mean, can you name a book of the Bible where there isn't a story? You know, I mean, it's just a lot. The Israelites in the wilderness. Hagar, the Egyptian slave, was banished with her son. God provides water. Jesus having a conversation with a woman at a well, but saying that this well will never quench your thirst, but I have some water to give you. So all of this is connected to this development of the water image in Genesis 1 and 2. So waters become this divine gift of life at just the right moment, or a divine gift of life that I can take and abuse for my own purposes and this kind of thing. But again, the Genesis 1 and 2 gives us the category, and then the rest of the biblical narrative is just going to run with this concept, and stories will develop in different ways. This was like discovering a gem when I realized this, because not only did it just help me understand this weird paragraph in the middle of the Garden of Eden narrative, but it also illuminated the symbolic meaning of water in the rest of the biblical story. And it helped me because I've been thirsty before, but I haven't really ever wondered where my next drink of water is coming from. I mean, I think I've been like backpacking and I was waiting for the next stream to refill. So I had to wait an hour. So, I really don't know what it's like. But before the age of water treatment facilities, and faucet water, I think it was pretty inherent in the human condition to know that water is life. So there you go. That's a short thing on rivers and springs. I pass the baton to you to go explore the Bible and your life to put this to work. But at least for the moment, thoughts or reflections on this theme of the waters.